as well as CCAI, kind of combining that together to be able to get deeper insights into what customers are saying, as well as employees, and how we can take advantage of that. And then with all of the momentum around generative AI, one of the things that we've been working with many of our customers on is this front end quick deployment Infobot concept, or I think it's Gen AI bot now. And so Nathan's got something he's going to take us through and kind of show a use case of where we see this really coming into the fold in the contact center. This will be about a 30-minute session, so we'll have time for questions at the end. We don't typically run too long. So just in case for those that might be on the phone or on the computer that don't know TTEC, we've been doing this a long time. Our specialty is the customer experience and the customer journey. So we really, really focus in making the technology work to support those customer experiences, especially through this digital transformation landscape that we're all going through, as customers are looking to use more and more different channels outside of voice than they traditionally have. In addition to that, one of the kind of the unique things about TTEC is we are also a BPO. We've got over 50,000 contact center agents today that sit in contact centers all over the world. So we were able to kind of bring this unique perspective to the table when you look at understanding the day in the life of the agent, understanding what a lot of the leading brands are doing in the market and where their head's at, and also having access to a lot of the different technologies that are out there powering those customer journeys. So as part of this kind of theme, we think about what a lot of the customers are saying to us today is they are looking at their interactions with their customers, and they're trying to figure out, how do I make this shift to a more digital first experience? And this is a combination of things. Part of it is many of the companies today out there are still very, very voice centric from a support standpoint. And so the challenge, especially kind of the macroeconomic environment we're in, is the cost to serve at the voice level is high. And so a lot of companies are looking at, how can we go in and start that shift to introduce new channels and also be able to bring in more information like self-service, access to that back office information that's there, that can help customers resolve their events quicker, faster, easier. But they really want to do it with a strategic approach. A lot of times that's a data-driven approach. So they really want to understand what customers are saying, what are those top conversation intents that are coming through, and how do we make sure that we have a very, very specific designed experience based on each one of those channels that we're going to roll out. And as we make investments in those technologies, they're going to build on each other. So kind of establishing that foundation, if you will. And this is where TTEC really comes in to help lay out that plan with our customers today and kind of build that roadmap, if you will, over time. So we've talked through this view previously on a couple of our different sessions, but I've actually made a change to this, and I think it's really key from when we started this earlier this year to today, which is introducing at the top there that Gen AI box. And a lot of the conversations we're having right now is companies that have played with some of the digital channels. They're looking at chat. They may have a virtual agent out there in the wild, or maybe they don't today, right? Maybe it's very scripted self-service at best. But now with the introduction of Gen AI into the customer journey, the question kind of comes like, how do I get this in the field? How do I take advantage of it? So what's interesting is inside of the contact center, the access points for Gen AI are really the same as they have been with Google CCAI over the last several years, right? You have the ability to go in and still use Dialogflow, deploy that virtual agent on the front end, regardless of channel, be able to really kind of guide the customer through getting to your experience. And then also being able to provide that to an agent for agent assist. That's one of the other big access points. And then also from an insights standpoint, being able to use the large language model to understand a lot more data quicker and be able to get better visibility into those conversations, and more than just intent necessarily, but getting kind of deeper into things like sentiment analysis, topic modeling, all those types of the data that you're really after, right? So as I kind of jump forward here, we're going to focus today, what Nathan's going to show is around this virtual agent side. One of the challenges we've had in the past is companies want to go and roll out a virtual agent on the front end, but there is a prohibitive cost at times to go in and roll that out, right? You have to understand that you got to have a conversational design around this. You got to understand what kind of self-service experiences you're going to build. You got to train the natural language to understand those intents. But one of the great things that Google's released, or a couple of months back, is this Infobot or Gen AI bot concept where we can now really, really quickly go and deploy a highly intelligent virtual agent to be able to answer questions around pretty much any kind of data that you want. And that can be privatized data, right? It's not necessarily going to be just using the open internet for all of its answers, but it's going to be very specific to your company and the goals that you're trying to accomplish. And so in this theme of how can we do this easier and faster, that's one of the things that Nathan's going to take us through here in the demo here in just a moment. But this idea that we can go leverage, whether it's website data, PDFs, a document that you want to feed into the language model, and be able to quickly train a virtual agent, publish this, but still using all of the traditional CCAI Dialogflow tools that are out there today, and really getting the benefit of all of the security, the scalability that comes with Google Cloud. And so we're going to be able to take a look at that. So Nathan, I'm going to hand this over to you, and you can jump into kind of the flow that you want to go through, and we'll go from there.
All right, that sounds great, Caleb. Thanks. Still looking for the right screen. Okay. Well, thanks for having me back on to this series, Caleb. I appreciate getting to present every time I do. So we're going to get to the multi-screen facet of this here in a second. Where this is going to start out for us today, and let's just actually rewind a second to generative AI. There are a couple different ways where we can get to Gen AI, specifically from a consumption of virtual agent perspective within Google. This is one of those ways, and what I'm going to introduce you to first is just really quickly how what Caleb was alluding to, the ease at which it can be set up. With the Gen App Builder, again, we're in here. What we're going to try and do is establish an Infobot to our website, and we're going to watch how it will create that virtual agent for us, and we'll pretty much be ready to go. At that point, we have control over the virtual agent, and we'll show you that a little bit later on here. But let's go ahead and, oh boy, my screen appears to be frozen. So while we're doing that here, oh man, I can't click on anything suddenly. Well, that might not be very good. Let me do one thing, folks.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and fix what you need to fix there. So part of what Nathan and I were discussing as we were getting ready for this, looking at how to kind of the best use case to kind of take forward here is this idea that as we build these virtual agents using Gen AI, using the large language model, that the flexibility of Dialogflow still exists, right? That we can go across channel to be able to provide that same experience. Because one of the biggest challenges we saw in the past was you'd have very isolated channel experiences. You'd have a virtual agent or a chatbot built specifically for chat, and it could do certain things. And then you could also have something set up that was for voice, for example. And it was a very different experience, different persona. And so one of the things that we really try and work with companies on is creating a very consistent experience across those different channels, whether it's coming out of voice, chat, or even some of these newer channels, as you think about in-app messaging or social, and being able to provide a very consistent kind of persona, but also be able to resolve a lot of the same tasks, but have it very intentional, because some things work really well with voice, some things don't. And so we have to take that into mind.
Yeah, and Caleb, I apologize for the delay. I'm gonna try and figure out how to stop sharing here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the share is locking up my screen. Let's try that again.
Nothing like a live demo.
Yeah. Let's try. I'm going to try sharing out again and hope that it doesn't lock it up again.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, it looks like I'm good now. All right. So yes. So back to where I was at, the Gen App Builder. So again, very, very simple and straightforward to leverage. I'm going to come in here. I have a Google project already established. Within that project, that's where we have the Gen App Builder enabled. And for this, in today's demo, I'm going to create a new chat agent. And so this is how it's going to know to go out and actually publish a virtual agent for me when we're done here. And with this, the goal of today is we want to get it to look at TTEC Digital's fictitious e-commerce company, which is known as Parasol. So we'll have it create that. And you can see here the options of website, unstructured data, and structured data. So, as Caleb mentioned, you don't have to necessarily have, the data doesn't have to come from things that are out on open internet. It could be PDF documents, PowerPoints, other types of internal or private documentation. So from here, we're going to create what's called the data store. And what's happening here, and this takes a little bit of time, but what's happening here is we're telling it to go out and crawl these documents, or in this case, this website. I actually was on the wrong screen. I just wanted a name there, but apparently it took it anyways. So here's the websites that we want to store. And of course, you can always come in and update these data stores. So if you want, you can specify websites. You can have up to 10 in here. You think different links, different paths to crawl. Again, just extremely simple to set up and get to where you can actually consume this. And where you can actually consume this when we build chat is virtual agent. You're going to see whenever I click that preview button, it's come out here and published this info bot for me. Now all I have to do is plug it into my contact center platform and start using it. So again, extremely easy to get started with. Let's go to our 3-screen approach here, and I'm going to show you website or mobile app. I got my phone over here. I've got an agent sitting over here, just kind of show you the end of the scenario. But we're really going to focus on these 2 screens where we'll do our quick interaction. Now I'm going to show you 2 simultaneous interactions, 1 voice and 1 chat. That way I don't have to. I'm not going to go through the same thing twice. I'm going to do them at the same time. The point here is that we're able to leverage this bot across multiple channels, so you're getting the same customer experience. And again, tack that on with the ease in which we did it. You've got something that immediately elevates your customer experience from where it's at today. So, and again, look over here at our website before I actually go in and do these. This is really going to be dependent when we put in our website. We're going to be dependent on really info from 2 web pages today. This instant camera page that it went out and got some data from, and then we've got over here a help center page. So, and it also read all of this stuff in. So you'll see as I go through here that it's kind of taking this in. If I give you an example here, I think I'll ask a question about shipping. We'll kind of see it pull that in. But let's go ahead and fire up these 2 interactions.
Welcome to Parasol. For retail, press 1. For health, press.
Now I'm just getting myself into the bot there.
Welcome. I'm the Parasol e-commerce virtual assistant. How can I assist?
Do you have any Polaroid cameras?
We sell instant camera by Polaroid.
Can you provide me more info?
With its nostalgic design and simple point-and-shoot functionality, the instant camera is the perfect pick to get started with instant photography.
How much does it cost?
One more time.
How much does it cost?
The instant camera costs $209.99.
If I buy it today, when will I receive it?
First, fill your order. Please note the lead time in the product details. Then we must ship it. Shipping to the United States and Canada takes 7 to 21 days. Shipping to Europe, Oceania, and Southeast Asia takes 9 to 21 days. Shipping to all other countries takes 14 to 35 days.
Great. Can you help me place an order?
I can transfer you to a sales representative to assist with your order. Would you like me to do that now?
No. Not going to escalate both of them there. We'll just escalate the chat here and see this kind of come through and round out our interaction where, yeah, we got to the point of providing the information via the Infobot, but customer wanted to perform an action so we can pick up on that, transfer that off, or send it into some other sort of self-service, do anything we really want with that there. But then again, here's that whole conversation from the agent side. Again, everything that we already know about CCAI platform available to us from the agent perspective, operating on a given channel. And Caleb, that's going to conclude my section. I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, so you keep showing your screen there for a second, Nathan, because I think there's a couple of key call outs here. So as Nathan said, we kind of went through this simultaneous interaction. You saw it from a voice standpoint, saw it from a chat standpoint. The key thing here is from training that virtual agent, all that information that Nathan was finding, he's asking questions, what's the price? How long is it going to ship from? How long does it take to ship? That's not necessarily coming from just one page. As you saw on his website, he had the instant camera, he had a price there, but other information, the FAQs, the shipping information, that might be on a different page, right? But it's actually going out, understanding all the data that's there. It's summarizing the information to a very natural language response back to the customer, and it's providing to them. If you think about just from a time to deployment, that's really the focus here on this type of virtual agent, is the fact that we can go in and really get a highly, highly intelligent bot trained and available very, very quickly. And it's still leveraging, though, and this is really kind of the key piece here, that underlying dialogue flow capabilities. Because what we find is you might put a virtual agent out there, but most likely you're going to want it to do other stuff. Some of the flows that you're going to have, the interactions, they're going to be scripted. You may have an authentication flow. A customer may want to check an order status. So there may be integrations to a backend system where you're still needing to collect some information, go grab data from another platform, be able to provide a confirmation back to a customer, right? But at the same time, as you start to expand the capabilities of that virtual agent, you can now make it intelligent where it really understands your brand. It understands the workflows that you may want to train it on. And these may be some of the knowledge-based content that you already have for agents today that you can now go ingest and be able to provide that to your virtual agent. And if you think about from over time, the maintenance aspect of this, it's really, really simplified. And so as you go in and create new content, as you start to publish new information, the website gets updated. It's very easy to go in and simply retrain that virtual agent so it has all of that information in that context. So Nathan, the last thing, if you can, and I think you can end your chat possibly here on your Salesforce window. So what Nathan was showing was that escalation where it's actually taking the full conversation, it's moving it over to an agent. This is using CCAI platform integrated into Salesforce. There's an out-of-the-box connector there. And then at the end of that conversation, all of that data is going to be saved in Salesforce, right? So very seamlessly, that whole chat transcript is placed in the activity. And now that's going to be visible to a future agent. So if that customer ends this conversation, they come back tomorrow, this record would pop up. And the next agent picking this up is going to have visibility into what that conversation was around. And then the last piece of that from a data management standpoint is this data is now available for you to go run through something like CCAI Insights, right? Where you want to go start understanding those analytics around what are the themes of the conversations that we're having? What types of questions are people asking? And are they asking it because the information is missing from my website or it's just not easy to find? And so that's going to give you a lot of ability to go in and start doing those proactive optimization efforts around whether it's the website, the content you have today, the way people are trained, or even the virtual agent being able to expand its capabilities. So thank you, Nathan. I just want to make sure we kind of tied that all together there. So I'm going to share one last thing here. If anybody has questions, feel free to chat those in, or we can you can come off mute and ask a question. We're happy to have that conversation because we've kind of got through the core piece. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I had a question about that chat transcript and when it's doing the agent assist. I know with some of the new Gen AI capabilities, I was curious if there is a summarization that is being provided by the LLM of that transcript when the agent starts to receive that, or is that mainly once they're in CCAI Insights in order to get that summary?
That's a great question, Alex. Nathan, I know you've played with summarization a little bit, so you want to speak to kind of what happens there and when it happens?
Yeah, so at the end of a call, again, I hadn't planned on doing that wrap there, but turning on summarization is a queue level setting. You turn that on, and it'll summarize the agents. We'll go into wrap at the end of that, be able to select from notes. It will summarize the agent portion of the conversation from a note perspective. I don't believe, I would have to go verify this, that it's going to do the entire transcript, but it summarizes the agent leg so the agent can quickly append their notes and save those into the CRM.
Yeah, that's perfect. So, Alex, that answer your question?
Yeah, that helps. I also have a question about long running cases. So say there are some customers that have support cases that can go over multiple days or something, and maybe there's like a production issue, and it may need to transfer hands between different support agents. I'm curious if there's a summarization between support agents, basically internally, to say, here's everything that's happened until you receive this case. And then as it goes to the next agent, here's everything that happened since you received this case. Because I've seen just in support that typically this is done manually by different agents that are working on different things. And I'm curious if that's a capability that I think it probably is coming at some point, but just curious if that's available.
Yeah, as of right now, it's really an agent summarization of their conversation, really gearing at eliminating the after work time for a particular agent. So, picture that kind of feature really being tailored to what the agent perceived as the notes they should make about that conversation. So if multiple people join that conversation, you'll have kind of agent notes from each of them. And again, when we do the summarizations, at least the way that it works today, it really is just wrap data, and stored to the CRM. So it'll present as, agent Nathan created this wrap, and here it is. But obviously they use the summarization to be able to inject that rather than having to type them out themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a key point there. I mean, the other piece of this is we're looking at it very specifically with how is CCAI platform and CCAI virtual agent handling the summarization, but that summarization capability is there from an API call, so that if there's a set of information, an agent does type up 10 minutes worth of notes, you can still run that API against that to summarize those notes and save it in a case. And as that case transfers along, you'll be able to take that summary and it should follow that case over time as it transfers to other people. So a lot of that's just kind of configuration and how you want to be able to, what you want to point it at the end of the day, right? So let's see, Vanessa's got a question here. Vanessa, I'm gonna try and read your whole question, if I can see this. So what's your perspective on homegrown system integrations in terms of time to implement? It's something I struggle with. So very, very good question. Nathan's definitely the integration expert here. I know you've done a few with homegrown systems. So Nathan, what's your perspective on that?
We talking integration with website, virtual agent? What part of the platform are you looking for, Vanessa?
Like, let's use like the camera example. Like, let's say that was sitting in like their own custom ERP. Like, it wasn't sitting on the website. It was sitting in an ERP system that has all of that information.
Yeah, got it. So I think that from the ERP, the immediate question would be, how can you extract that extract that data to be able to supply it? If that ERP is private or behind access, you'll probably want to pull that data into some sort of structured document. That way you can just upload it. But in terms of time to integrate, once you have that data in the format that you want it to be in, you really just plug it in through the Gen App Builder and Google's kind of taking care of the rest for you. So there's not a high level of integration outside of making sure that the data exists in the way that it needs to exist.
Interesting. So you like prepare and like in the either like the sales process or the implementation process, you don't take their system like as is, because sometimes like with the customer experience manager that may be, or vice president trying to get this automation going, they don't really understand the back end systems.
Yeah.
But I liked your idea about like preparing them. Maybe they don't have to fix the back end system, but could they almost like mold it into something else?
Yeah, like when you, in your example with the ERP, is that a private web-based system?
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, again, with that one, with it being private, we're not going to be able to go out and crawl that. I would immediately say, is there an API there that I could pull, let's say there's a bunch of products stored in there, pull the product descriptions and prices into a document, something like that.
Yeah, that's because I've been also trying to like tell my customers about basically like if it's going to be an effective virtual agent, like try to literally think about what your real agents have access to.
Mm-hmm.
And your idea was actually really good because most of the times those virtual agents may have a one pager instead of like the true ERP.
Yeah.
But it's a great use case. That's the thing that changed. I'd say when you look at like a broader view over the last couple of years, customers know that you know stuff about them, and they know that data exists somewhere, like the product information or whatever a normal agent would have access to. And so the expectation now is, well, why doesn't the virtual agent have access to it?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
So I think you've got the right perspective there of if a normal agent has access to it, there should be a way for a virtual agent to have access to it. And then you just got to script, like, what is it like? Is it going to be a good experience if they're trying to go get really complex healthcare information? Well, maybe they're not going to be able to understand it, even if you give them the information. But it's still the idea is let's push that as far along as we can. And if we can extract it, we can definitely make a good experience out of it. So I know we're at time. Great questions. Alex, Vanessa, if you want to follow up, we'd be more than happy to chat with you and kind of dig deeper into some of these use cases. That's what we do. So again, thank you, everybody. Just for a point of reference, I'm going to share my screen really, really quick because I think there is a couple of other resources for you. Let me see if I can't get to one of the things that we have set up for you guys. If you have customers, just as a partner with Google and to help our customers, we've got some kind of pre-built assessments and kind of pilot offers out there that we're happy to work with you on to help kind of just accelerate. And a lot of this is already built out and kind of ready to go for you. So if you want to chat through some of that, please let us know. Everybody should have Whitney's information. And then lastly, on our website, and we can make sure we follow up and share this with everybody, but we've got some of the recordings from the previous sessions that we've done. So if you want access to those, or if you want to send it to use it for whatever purpose you need, feel free to use that. We'll make sure everybody gets that link. So thank you again, everybody. Have a great day, and we will see you next month.
Thank you.
Alex, I'm happy to hang around if you want to.
Yeah. I just had a question for the assessment. I saw on the microsite that it is either between free and 10,000. I'm curious what that means. So is there free assessment, or is it dependent on something that somehow brings in some cost component?
Yeah, that's fair. There's definitely we've got kind of a free assessment type of offers out there for sure. A couple of day deep dive discovery with you, the customer, kind of understand what they're doing. If it's going to be more complex, if we need to bring in some different resources to really design something during that, we might look at, there may need to be a cost associated to it, but typically we don't charge for it.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thanks, everybody.